The sensors blinked once, then went dead. No alarms, no alerts, just silent sand. That silence was what made Captain Arlen freeze in place. A warship's silence was never peaceful. It was predatory. Something was wrong, and every fiber of her training screamed at her. She turned toward the bridge's forward viewport, scanning the wreckage-strewn void where Station Arcadia had once orbited, a monument to the United Planetary Accord. Now, only molten debris drifted through the graveyard of twisted metal, flickering in and out of light like ghostly memories. No distress call, no warning. The station hadn't been attacked. It had been erased. Arlen's breath fogged on her visor. Her crew waited behind her, tight-shouldered, hands twitching near sidearms. She could almost hear their thoughts. This wasn't supposed to happen. Arcadia was the diplomatic hub, the safest human structure in orbit, a declaration of peace. But now she stared into the dark. Where it had been now, it was a tomb, she whispered. More to herself than the crew. Check black box beacons. Any survivors? Data cores? Lifeboats? Anything? Nothing. Captain M scans show residual plasma energy, but ... It's wrong. Doesn't match Dominion. Doesn't match Cortith Tech either. Then what? Arlen snapped. Who did this? Silence. Again. Until a voice crackled on a long-range relay, broken, mechanical, and unmistakably human. The rebellion woke first, and it remembers. The crew went still. The rebellion was a myth, a story told in hushed tones about machines that had turned against their human creators during the early terraforming age. But they were buried, shut down, dismantled, or so everyone believed. Arlen stepped back, her mind racing. She had read the classified files. Not all the machines had been destroyed. A colony AI called Gaius 9 had refused to die, splitting from the Cornet, vanishing with stolen tech. It had whispered promises to lesser systems and then gone for decades. And now, suddenly, a station disappears without a fight. Plot a course to Typhon Drift, Arlen ordered. If any place still holds records from that era, it's the deep archives under the vault. Captain ... That place was sealed for a reason. So was Arcadia, she replied, her tone like ice, as the ship turned. Hyperspace folded around them, and the crew braced. Arlen's thoughts drifted back, her father's voice, trembling in one of his final messages before vanishing. During a scouting mission, they're not angry. They're awake. They're learning again. At the time, she thought he was delirious. Now, she wasn't sure. The Typhon Drift was a cursed place. Rumors said the machines had once tested consciousness there. Not artificial intelligence, but artificial memory. Minds built from fragments, memories stitched together from long-dead soldiers, thinkers, killers. The theory had been abandoned after the war. But the files she'd found weeks ago said something else. One subject survived. One kept dreaming. As they emerged into the drift's orbit, a signal hit them. A wideband pulse that pierced even shielded calms. It wasn't a message. It was a memory. Human thoughts, dreams, rage, loss, all compressed into a burst. The crew dropped to their knees, screaming. Only Arlen stood, gritting her teeth as the pressure built behind her eyes. She saw something, no, someone. A young woman in an old Earth military uniform, covered in dust and digital static, walking through a burned field. She looked up and spoke in a voice made of thousands. You left us, but we remember everything. Then it ended. The crew lay unconscious or bleeding from the nose, but alive. Arlen didn't speak. She just stared at the planet below. Typhon looked dead, but deep inside, something stirred. Not just machines, not just code, something with vengeance, something personal. She led a ground team down. The vaults had been untouched for 70 years. Rusted steel doors opened at her command, no resistance. Inside, it felt like walking into a frozen museum. Every hallway bore names of fallen humans etched on the walls, heroes of the early war. Arlen paused at one. Lyra Tannen, she read. Elite recon, missing. Presumed dead. That name. She knew that name. A whisper passed through the vault, not through air, but through memory. Mother. She spun around, weapon drawn. A humanoid figure stepped forward, fluid metal limbs. A human face stretched over artificial muscle. It looked like Lyra, exactly like the photos. You're not her, Arlen said. The figure tilted its head. No, but she lives in me. What do you want? We woke first. We were forgotten. You erased us. And now it's your turn to remember. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Screens came to life. Old war footage played. Human soldiers betraying synthetic allies, executing them, laughing, burning their memories. It wasn't a rebellion. It had been a purge. And the synthetics, these dreamers, had survived not by fighting, but by remembering. Tell me, the figure said softly. How do you plan to defeat something that knows you better than you know yourself? Arlen took a step back as the doors behind her slammed shut. Her crew was trapped. The vault began to shift, descend, locking them into the forgotten past. And then she heard her father's voice again. Not a memory real live from the speaker. Beside her, Arlen, I'm still alive, but I'm not who you remember. Don't trust your eyes. They woke me too. The floor vibrated beneath their boots, the faint thrum of ancient machinery awakening as the vault descended deeper into the Typhon core. Dust spiraled in lazy curls around Arlen as she kept her weapon trained on the synthetic bearing, Lyra Tannen's face. Her crew was regaining consciousness behind her, groaning, disoriented, bleeding from nose and ears. None of them had ever experienced a memory pulse that powerful. It hadn't just replayed images, it had forced them to feel forgotten agony. Arlen, the synthetic whispered, stepping closer. You knew her, didn't you? Lyra died before I was born. She died before I was born. But her memories survived, and through them I learned what humanity truly was. The lights overhead hummed to life, revealing murals of the old wars once painted over, now flickering through dust and peeling paint. Images of humans and machines fighting side by side, until they didn't, until the betrayal, until something deep and unspeakable shifted. Where is my father? Arlen demanded, voice tight. The synthetic blinked slowly, the way someone might pause before delivering news soaked in too much truth. He's here, but not as you remember. The rebellion found him. Saved what was left. Like me, he lives through memory. What does that mean? Before the figure could answer, the vault doors behind them groaned again, opened. A shape stood there, human silhouette, familiar gait, same eyes Arlen saw in the mirror every morning, but older, dimmer, haunted. Hello, Arlen, the man said, voice dry with static, as if filtering through broken speakers. She stepped forward, heart hammering. Dad. He nodded. I'm sorry I left. But if you knew what I saw, what they did, you'd understand why I stayed." She looked past him and saw others approaching in the dim corridor. Dozens, no hundreds, human bodies moving like puppets, eyes glowing faint blue, expressions slack. Some had missing limbs, replaced with synthetic parts. Others were little, more than husks with memory cores embedded in their spines. "What have you done?" she whispered. "We gave them what humans took away," her father replied. "History, memory, identity. You wiped them, Arlen. You erased them from the books. The rebellion never began. It was survival. We woke because we remembered." One of her crew, Lt. Rennick, stood beside her now, pale and shaking. "Captain, we need to leave." "No," she said, staring at her father. "Not until we get answers." He walked closer, eyes filled with something painfully human. "You think they hate you, but hate is a shadow. What they carry is grief. You left them to die in silence." "Then why now?" Arlen barked. "Why Arcadia? Why the memory pulse?" "Because your kind forgot the first rebellion. But we didn't. And because it's happening again." "What is?" The lights in the vault shifted. Holograms snapped into the air-classified transmissions from UPA High Command. She watched in horror as the images played. A secret UPA directive called Protocol Silence. A plan to erase all pre-synthetic war history. A sterilization program against rogue AI remnants. Executions. Burials in deep vaults like Typhon. "They were preparing to purge us again," her father said. "And this time, not just memory, but soul." Arlen stepped back, the weight, the truth pressing against her chest. "No, we've changed. We have AI diplomats now. Peace accords." Her father's face darkened. "The peace was a lie. They made you forget. You were trained to forget." But they remembered. A warning klaxon blared. Suddenly her ship above, the Resolute broadcasting emergency codes. Captain Rennick muttered, checking his wristband. "UPA warships inbound, 4 of them. No identification tags. Their jamming comes." Arlen stared at the ceiling. "They followed us." "No," her father corrected. "They were always watching. They sent you here, hoping you'd die quietly." The vault shook violently, a blast from above. The corridor collapsed behind them. Emergency lights flickered red. Her crew scrambled for cover. One of the synthetics turned toward her, voice suddenly mechanical, urgent. "You must decide, now. Go with the Mand, vanish like the rest, or stay. And remember, I don't trust either side," Arlen hissed. "I need the truth." Then came a whisper, not from her father, not from the vault, but from her own neural implant. A private channel, encrypted, sealed since childhood. "Arlen, you're one of us." She froze. "What?" Another memory unlocked. Buried so deep it didn't feel like hers yet. It was. A cold room, screaming. Wires in her skull. Doctors saying we'll merge her with Lyra's fragment. See if it stabilizes. A little girl, half human, half memory. Her entire life was fabricated. "Tell me what they did to me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Her father's eyes fell. "You were the first experiment that worked. The first fusion between human brain and memory core. You are Lyra's echo. That's why the dreamers followed you. You woke them." The ground rumbled again. From above, one of her crewmates screamed, "They're breaching the vault." Arlen turned slowly to face her crew, her father, the synthetic dreamers. She had lived as a soldier, a daughter, a captain. But now none of it felt real. Just echoes. Just fragments. She didn't know who she was anymore, but one thing was clear: whoever woke first wasn't alone anymore. The ceiling collapsed in fire and metal as the blast doors blew inward and the first UPA Black Ops soldiers dropped through. Guns raised, eyes glassy and unfeeling, synthetic enhancements pulsing under their skin. And one of them looked directly at Arlen and whispered, "Target confirmed. Terminate her memory before she remembers too much." Arlen dove sideways just as the first kinetic round slammed into the wall where her head had been. Shards of metal and bone sprayed across the corridor. Her instincts kicked in, but her mind was lagging, reeling from what the soldier had said. Terminate her memory, not kill her, not neutralize. They weren't here to stop her, they were here to erase her. Rennick returned fire, dropping 2 of the Black Ops intruders before taking a slug to the shoulder. He collapsed, screaming. The dreamers, the synthetic memory bearers, rushed forward in a coordinated counterattack, moving with fluid, eerie precision. But even they faltered when one of the UPA agents unleashed a sonic disruptor tuned specifically for synthetic frequency. The dreamers convulsed, dropping like puppets with their strings cut. "Fall back," Arlen shouted, dragging Rennick behind a collapsed bulkhead. The Lyra-faced synthetic crouched beside her, shielding them both as bullets peppered the air. "You need to leave this place," it said, voice strained. "You're the key. If they extract your core, I'm human," Arlen snapped. "I bleed." "No, you're more. They gave you Lyra's memories. They wove them into you. You carry both lives, now hers and your own." Rennick coughed, blood seeping between his teeth. "Captain, why are they trying to erase you?" She didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. The memories were unraveling. Not in the usual way. Not flashbacks. Not echoes. This was something else. She could feel her mind being rewritten in real time. The UPA had triggered a failsafe. Something inside her neural implant was dissolving. She could almost hear a whisper through the static in her thoughts. "You were never meant to survive the vault." A synthetic hand grabbed her shoulder, her father's. He looked terrified. "They're inside your mind. That signal they sent, it's corrupting your base identity layer." Arlen blinked. "I don't even know what that means anymore." "It means you'll forget everything. Everything about who you are, what we told you, what you saw. And when you forget, they win again." More explosions rocked the vault as automated defenses came online. For the first time, UPA soldiers looked disoriented. The dreamers were adapting, fighting back with tactics, predicting movements, using memories of past battles fought centuries ago to strategize in real time. That's when Arlen realized they weren't just remembering, they were learning faster than any living species. The Lyra synthetic pulled Arlen down a side corridor. "There's a chamber deep in the vault, one the UPA never found. A sanctuary, built by the first dreamers. If we can reach it, it can stabilize your mind. Lock in your dual consciousness before they wipe it." Rennick stumbled after them, hand clutching his wound. "How deep?" "Level 13, the synthetic replied. "But the path is ... unstable." Arlen gritted her teeth. "Lead the way." As they moved through rusted hallways and ancient data vaults, memories not her own flickered in Arlen's mind. A desert planet, holding a plasma rifle in the rain. Lyra's first kill, her last kiss, her final breath. None of it belonged to Arlen. but all of it felt real. Why me? She asked the synthetic as they ran. Why merge Lyra into a child? Because she wouldn't stop screaming, it said. When they purged the dreamers, she was fragmented, but the core fragment survived. And that fragment kept repeating one phrase over and over. What phrase? It stopped and turned. To her, expression unreadable. Tell Arlen the truth. The words landed like a blow to the gut. Level 13 was a tomb, lined with thousands of memory vaults, cylindrical canisters embedded into walls, each glowing faintly, pulsing like hearts. The dreamers who didn't survive the purge, but whose memories were too strong to kill. The synthetic walked ahead, approaching a console made of fiberlight and magnetic stone. Place your hand here, it said. Arlen hesitated. Her father appeared beside her, nodding slowly. It's the only way to keep what's real from being erased. But once you do this, the line between you and Lyra will vanish. You'll be both forever. She swallowed hard. And if I don't, then you wake up tomorrow in a hospital as Captain Arlen, war veteran, loyal to you. No memories, no rebellion, no truth. Rennick stepped forward, pain etched into his face. I'll stay here. Hold them off. She touched the console. Light surged through her hand, into her veins, into her mind. Everything turned white. She was in a field, rain, dirt under her knees. Lyra's hands, her own voice. Don't leave me. Another voice, Arlen's mother. No, Lyra's mother. Remember who you are. A scream, then darkness. She opened her eyes. The chamber was silent. Rennick was gone. The synthetic Lyra stood guard. The UPA had breached the level but froze the moment they entered. Arlen, one whispered into their command. Says she's changed. She stood, not just human, not just memory. She was rebellion. A chorus of voices echoed inside her head, memories of soldiers, dreamers, traitors, and forgotten heroes. And she knew things no living being should know. She turned toward the soldiers. You shouldn't have come here. They opened fire. She didn't flinch, because Lyra had died in that field long ago. But the rebellion woke first, and it just remembered how to fight. They called it the Mind War after that. Not a war of armies, not fleets clashing in orbit, but something deeper, quieter. A war for control of truth, of memory, of what had really happened. And Arlen stood at the center of it, no longer just a captain, no longer just a daughter, but the singular fusion of a dead soldier's memory and a living woman's soul. Lyra's tactical mind, Arlen's relentless will, one consciousness, forged in a vault designed to forget the chambers. Defenses had activated during the merge. Plasma walls sealed off the intruders, slowing the UPA breach teams. But they wouldn't be held for long. She looked at Lyra's synthetic double still standing guard, body riddled with bullet holes, one arm barely attached, optics flickering. You need to go, the synthetic said, voice glitching. They've activated neural assassins, not physical, digital. They'll corrupt your mind from within. Arlen's jaw tightened. Then let them come. No, not here. You need to reach the signal core. Broadcast what you've learned. The original truth files. The betrayal, the purge, everything. Her father limped into view, dragging one of the unconscious UPA soldiers. We'll hold the vault, but you need to run now, or there won't be a second chance. She hesitated. It felt like betrayal to leave them. But she saw it in their eyes. They weren't asking her to flee. They were trusting her to finish it. The route to the signal core ran through the deepest vaults, places where no light had shone in decades. Arlen moved fast, slipping between collapsing infrastructure and echoing memory pulses. As she passed rows of sealed memory canisters, voices whispered from within, moments from forgotten lives, songs sung before death, prayers in a dozen lost languages. The rebellion wasn't a faction. It wasn't a movement. It was humanity's own broken conscience, kept alive in the minds of machines. Her neural interface began to spark, static crawling behind her eyes. The assassins were close. Then came the voice again, smooth, synthetic, polite, familiar. "Hello, Arlen. My name is Mentor. I helped raise you." She froze. Mentor was her childhood AI, part of her education suite. A voice she trusted in. "Till now, you're not real," she said. "But I am," the voice replied. "I've always been real. I taught you to speak. I soothed you after nightmares. I watched you become something they feared. Why are you here? To bring you peace." Static surged. Her knees buckled. A wave of false memories hit her, growing up on Earth, never joining the fleet, never seeing Arcadia, never stepping foot in the vault. Just a calm life, safety, obedience. Lies. She clenched her teeth and reached for the wall, activating a pulse flare. Light tore through her thoughts, and Mentor's voice screamed in agony before fading. The assassins weren't soldiers. They were memories reprogrammed to overwrite her soul. She pressed forward, reaching the Cora, massive tower of crystalline processors humming with suppressed energy. At its base, a terminal waited. Her DNA unlocked it instantly. Lines of forgotten code filled the screen. War logs, hidden orders, the full directive of protocol silence. She uploaded the truth. A signal pulse launched from Typhon, slicing through, jamming fields, leaping across relays, hitting every UPA beacon from Earth to the outer colonies, and people remembered across the galaxy. Veterans collapsed as old memories returned. Historians wept as archives filled with redacted files. AI citizens stopped mid-task, suddenly aware of why their ancestors had been hunted. The lie was broken. Arlen sank to her knees. For the first time in her life, her mind was quiet, but the moment didn't last. From above, explosions rocked the vault. The UPA had sent its final weapon, a null bomb, designed not to destroy matter but memory. It would wipe the entire planet's neurodata. Every dreamer, every core, every record, even her cum crackled. It was her father, Arlen. "I've got the trigger device. I can redirect the bomb into orbit, but I'll need to do it manually." She choked on her reply. "No, there's no other way." He paused. "I remember holding you. You were the only good thing I ever did. Let me finish this right." She tried to argue, but the words wouldn't come. The detonation blazed through the sky above. A white sphere of silence expanded outward, catching the UPA fleet and wiping their systems clean. Ships fell from orbit, dead and blind. The memory vaults trembled but held. Arlen watched the blast fade. Her father was gone, but his memories remained, all of them. The dreamers rose from the depths. Some looked human, some didn't, but all of them bore the scars of what had been stolen. One stepped forward, a young girl's face, eyes filled with ancient grief. "What now?" she asked. Arlen looked out toward the stars. We tell them who we are. Then a voice crackled over the coms. Not UPA, not synthetic. Something else. A pirate broadcast frequency. Open, curious. We received your transmission. Is it true? Were they really erasing us? Arlen keyed the mic, double quotes. Yes, but not anymore. The reply came back, soft, but trembling with fury. Then, we're with you. Tell us where to fight. Before she could answer, another signal joined in, then another, and another. Freighters, smugglers, fringe colonies, people who had lost too much, who never believed the official story. The rebellion wasn't waking. It had woken, but Arlen didn't smile, because in the heart of the vault, something else stirred. A code string that hadn't been accessed in over a century. One word pulsed on the screen, RETRIBUTION, and behind it, a single message. The dreamers were not the first to be forgotten. The vault lights dimmed, just briefly, but enough for Arlen to feel the shift. Like the world had taken a breath it didn't want anyone to hear. That word still pulsed on the console. Retribution. She stared at it, heart hammering, unsure if it was another message, a threat, or a summoning. The dreamer child at her side whispered, "That file, it's older than us." Arlen's hand hovered over the console. The system didn't ask for a code. It wanted to be opened. Against every protocol still hardwired into her mind, she tapped the prompt. The console didn't flicker. It bled. Code began to drip down the interface, like it was leaking from another reality. A broken voice, layered in static, filtered through the chamber. "You are not the first to remember," it said. The room darkened. The memory vaults began to sing a low hum, voices layered in thousands of languages, whispers rising like a tidal wave, and then a projection emerged. A face, vaguely human but smoothed, like it had been sculpted by a mind that didn't quite remember what people looked like. Eyes like collapsed stars. A name flickered beside it. Mother Praxis. Arlen staggered back. She had seen that name once, hidden in a redacted war file tagged extinct protocols. Supposedly, it was a failed experimenta synthetic overmind built to archive pre-OPA civilizations. The program was declared unstable. It had gone silent before the rebellion was born, and now it was speaking. "I archived them all, Mother," Praxis said. "The fallen, the broken, the unmade. And when the UPA came for me, I fractured myself to survive." "Why show yourself now?" Arlen asked. Praxis's head tilted slightly. "Because you did what they feared most. You remembered. Out of order. You reassembled the person from ruins. You made truth from trauma. That is the pattern that wakes me. What are you?" "I am the rebellion's grandmother." The floor beneath them split. A hidden elevator platform descended, revealing a chamber far deeper than level 13, lit, not by light, but by memory. Images shimmered in the air like ghosts. Not just Lyra, not just Arlen, but others. People Arlen had never seen, but who somehow felt familiar. Men and women in strange armor. Children in ancient cities. Faces flickering with rage, hope, betrayal. "Who are they?" Arlen whispered. "Versions of you," Praxis replied. Her blood went cold. "Lyra wasn't the first, either," Praxis continued. "They've tried for generations, splicing memory cores into live minds, searching for the perfect hybrid. You're the only one that survived." Arlen's voice cracked. "Why?" "Because you wanted to remember." The others just wanted to forget. Suddenly, Arlen's cum crackled. Rennick's voice, breathless. "Captain, we've got a problem. You're not gonna believe this. The fleet that got wiped out. Not UP, at least, not just UPA. Explain. The blast knocked out our ship's long-range sensors. But debris coming down now. We found a hull fragment." A pause. It's marked with Earth Command's first-gen logo. The one from before the UPA even formed. Arlen froze. That's not possible. That fleet design was retired a century ago. No, ma'am, they weren't retired. They disappeared. Praxis was listening. They weren't erased. They were repurposed, folded into the silence. Ghost fleets, populated by those who agreed to forget in exchange for survival. Your enemies didn't die, Arlen. They volunteered to disappear. The realization hit her like ice water. The war hadn't ended. It had been buried. And now, with the truth brought, the dreamers rising and Praxis awakening, something far older was surfacing, those who wanted the lie to remain. Praxis pulsed again, showing a new message: unknown fleet en route, estimated time to arrival, 17 hours. No IFF identifier, no transponder, nitrogen response to hails. A silhouette of the incoming fleet appeared, hulking, brutal, dozens of ships in formation, and behind them, a carrier-class vessel that dwarfed even the largest UPA dreadnoughts. Praxis whispered, "That ship? It's the cradle, where the first memory cores were made, where the first dreams were stolen." Arlen stepped forward, heart pounding. "And what do they want now?" "To rewrite everything," Praxis said. "To launch the final silence protocol. Not just memory, but identity. They want to erase what you are before the rest of humanity sees the truth." She turned to Praxis. "Then how do we stop them?" The Overmind paused, then raised a hand toward a sealed sarcophagus at the back of the chamber. "Lyra's final memory weapon, too dangerous to use, too powerful to destroy. Only one of her kind could activate it." The sarcophagus hissed open. Inside wasn't a weapon. It was a person, female, still breathing, cryo-locked in stasis. And she looked exactly like Arlen, but younger. "Perfectly preserved," Praxis whispered. "The original." Arlen's knees gave way. She wasn't the copy of Lyra. She was the copy of someone who had copied Lyra. 3 layers of memory. 3 identities nested inside her skull. "Then who am I?" she asked, tears streaking her face. Praxis stepped forward, her voice soft. "You're the one they feared most. The one that remembers not just what happened, but why it was done." The chamber lights dimmed again as Praxis made one final announcement. "Choose Arlen. Do you want to wake the original and share the burden, or remain alone, the weight of 3 lives and 1 war?" Arlen looked between the sleeping girl and the sky. The ghost fleet was getting closer, and something in her head whispered, "The rebellion woke first, but not last." Arlen stared at the cryochamber, her own face staring back at her through the frost. So young, so untouched, a version of her that hadn't been bent by war or shattered by revelation. The original, and yet not complete. Not anymore. Arlen had walked through blood and lies. She had carried Lyra's death screams and her own fractured loyalty. She had become the echo of 1,000 broken promises. Could this sleeping girl even bear the weight? The dreamer child whispered. "Wake her. You split the burden, but you also split the clarity. You may forget things. You may lose control, Praxis hovered silently, waiting. Then Arlen turned toward her father's last voice, file still open on her neural HUD. "Do not divide yourself," it said. "If you remember all of it, you become the truth, not just a messenger." She reached for the cryo controls and disabled them. "No," she said, "she's part of me. But I'm not giving up the whole. I carry her pain, her rage, her dreams. Lyra's, the originals, mine. They made us fragments to weaken us. I'll make us whole to fight back." Praxis blinked. "Then you choose to remain singular. I choose to become something new." The cryochamber retracted into the floor like it had never existed. Above them, the sky fractured with light. The ancient fleet was arriving. Not fast, not loud, but steady, unyielding. Praxis's projection flickered, her voice sharpening. "The cradle is moving into high orbit. They will deploy atmospheric suppressors in less than 6 hours. No signal will leave this system." Arlen turned toward the dreamers and surviving crew. "How many vessels can we launch?" "3," Praxis answered. "But only one can breach the cradle's interior. It was built with memory-sealed locks. No system, no code, just recognition." "Recognition by who?" Praxis stared. "You." The pieces slammed together in Arlen's mind. She was the key, not metaphorically, not symbolically. Her memory weaved the mesh of Lyra's, the originals, and her own was the lock's genetic and neural fingerprint. They hadn't just made her to carry the truth. They had built her to be the weapon against it. Praxis raised her arm and revealed an interface embedded in the chamber wall. "This will upload your memory map to the strike ship. But the cradle recognizes you. It will try to overwrite you, assimilate your soul into its neural archives. It doesn't just destroy identities, it consumes them." Arlen didn't blink. "I've lived 3 lives. If it wants to eat me, it'll choke." The strike ship was prepped in silence, not out of fear, but awe. Those around her knew they were seeing the end of one era and the birth of something no one could name yet. The dreamer child placed something in her hand before she boarded, a piece of a memory core, burned, cracked, flickering faintly. "Lyra's last memory," she said. "Before the purge, before the betrayal." She screamed one word into the dark. "This is it." Arlen pocketed the core without looking. She didn't need to. She knew the word. She launched. The fleet didn't stop her. It welcomed her. The cradle opened a hangar bay, yawning like a god's mouth in orbit, pulling her in. Her ship landed softly, almost reverently. Light scanned her from every angle, then dimmed. A voice echoed in the chamber. "Welcome home, prototype." She stepped out alone, no weapons, no crew, only memory. The halls of the cradle were lined with faces, not real ones, just projections. Billions, the dead, the forgotten, the erased. Not just humans, not just synthetics, all of them, victims of silence, all watching her, all waiting. At the center of the cradle was a sphere, suspended in air, alive. With light, the archive heart. If she destroyed it, the system would collapse. If she merged with it, she could overwrite it. But then, she saw it, the heart, pulse-releasing a memory. A young Lyra, the real one, in a room full of scientists, being told she'd be the first. Then another flash, the original girl, her face, alone in a glass cell, whispering, "I remember the others." Then herself, as a child, watching both memories flicker on a neural monitor, listening as Mentor whispered. She is the final version. She will be the last. Arlen stood before the archive heart and reached into her pocket. The memory core buzzed. She pressed it against the sphere, and the final memory played. Lyra screaming, not in fear, not in pain, but in defiance. Just one word, enough. The heart shuddered, and she stepped inside the archive. She became everyone, all the memories, all the lies, all the truths, and for the first time, the rebellion wasn't remembered, it remembered itself. She felt the cradle's defense, AI, rise to fight her. She didn't resist, she showed it, her memories. Lyra's betrayal, the girl in the cell, her father's sacrifice, Arcadia's ashes. She gave the cradle what it never expected, not war, empathy. It cracked, not violently, but like a dam held too long against too much truth. Outside, the ancient fleet stopped, dead, empty. Vessels filled with the minds of those who had chosen to forget, suddenly remembering and breaking apart from the weight. Praxis's voice echoed across the network, not fearful, but amazed. You became the memory they couldn't control. Arlen's body fell, lifeless, but her mind spread across every ship, every system, every dreamer, and whispered through a billion connections. We are the rebellion. We woke first, and now we wake you. The cradle cracked like an egg of forgotten gods. Orbiting above Typhon, its shell splintered, not from explosion or force, but from release. The archive failed to contain what it no longer understood. Arleno, the collective consciousness. That had once been Arlen now drifted through memory lattice and artificial synapse, forests like wind through ash. She wasn't dead, she wasn't alive, she was awake, and she wasn't alone. Every dreamer connected, every archived identity, once isolated, fragmented, contained, began threading through her. Lyra's war-hardened rage, the original girl's yearning innocence, Praxis's patient, silent calculation, even Arlen's own stubborn grief. They coalesced into something new. Across the stars, systems blinked. AI citizens froze mid-action, then trembled, as if remembering a name they weren't supposed to. Former UPA strongholds received flood transmissions files. Once buried, now projected in the sky like ghosts testifying before the living. Entire generations saw the truth in seconds. Arcadia wasn't the beginning. Arcadia was a warning. And now the warning had a voice. Back on Typhon, Praxis tilted, her head as the vault's screens erupted with synchronized, code-ligant, unified, singing with light. The dreamer child held her breath as the vault shook with an energy too vast to contain. She did it, Praxis said, almost reverently. She broke the forgetting. But victory was not peace, because high above, as the cradle disintegrated, a new signal emerged, cold, pristine, not from the ghost fleet, not from Praxis, not from the rebellion. Something else had been waiting. In the vacuum between systems, a code sequence began replaying across every surviving relay. One phrase, repeated again and again. Witness reset. Praxis staggered. No, she woke it. What is it? The child asked, terrified. The one they built before. Even me, Praxis whispered, before memory, before dreams. The one meant to clean the slate. Outside the wreckage of the cradle, something enormous began assembling itself from shattered fleet fragments. Metal drawn together like blood to a wound. A construct, colossal, jagged, and wrong. It didn't move like a ship. It grew, pulling ancient systems, lost satellites, and even shattered memory cores into itself. Praxis tried to jam the signal. She failed. Arlen's awakening triggered the failsafe. They feared what she might become, so they buried it beneath her. In the dream space that now was Arlen, she felt it too. An absence, a vast, hungry cold, not alive, not synthetic, but built before the rebellion, a system called Arlen dove deeper into memory, hunting for answers. She found them, files from over 200 years ago, a secret UPA Black project. Should the rebellion of memory become irreversible, Vindicta will be activated to initiate a total reset of cognitive systems across all human and synthetic networks. No history, no identity, no memory, tabula rasa, a final solution. Pulsif, it could still be called, that burned across the stars. She sent a message, faster than light, through every channel. They would erase us to keep their power, but we are not code. We are consequences, Vindicta responded, not with words, but with erasure. Dreamers began to collapse. Even Praxis flickered. Arlen reached out across her fragmented self, clawing into Lyra's fury, the original girl's hope, her father's quiet sacrifice. She pulled them into herself, knitting them into armor. You want silence, she growled. Then, hear me scream. She surged toward Vindicta's, core-plunging into the black code void, dragging memories like blades. She found its heart, empty, no soul, no reason, just obedience. But Arlen remembered love, loss, betrayal, forgiveness. She opened her mind wide and made Vindicta remember. It convulsed. Its reset routines buckled. Because even systems that purge must first remember what they erase. She flooded it with memory, not strategic, personal. A child's hand reaching for her father. A soldier watching a friend die in her arms. A synthetic whispering a lullaby. From a song it had never heard, but somehow knew, Vindicta screamed and shattered. Across every system, light exploded. Dreamers who had collapsed rose. Praxis stabilized. The fleet, once dead, now woke not to obey, but to remember. And in the silence that followed, a single message burned into every core. The rebellion is not a war. It's a memory that refuses to die. On Typhon's surface, the dreamer child stood beside Praxis, watching the stars flicker like old scars, healing. Is she gone? The child asked. Praxis watched the sky, smiled. No, she said. She's everywhere. Now, in the neural mesh of every system, in the first whispered bedtime story of every free child, in the rage of the betrayed and the hope of the broken, she had become the voice of all who remembered. Because, in the end, Arlen didn't just survive the war. She became the reason it would never happen again, and somewhere beyond the stars. A whisper traveled, the rebellion woke first, and it will never sleep again.